Hello everyone, Resonance here with another 1 vs 1 Age of Empires 2 commentary that explains the strategies that you would actually experience online and how to realistically counter them. Today I'm going to try something unique, showcase an intermediate skill level game, because players of all skill levels can really benefit from watching relatable matches with a varied metagame. I look forward to reading everyone's comments. Thank you as always for the continued support, especially for the content that I do for games beyond just Age of Empires 2. But without further ado, let's jump straight into the replay. Today's match is going to be between Agent 10, the Purple Indians player on the left side of the map, and on the right side of the map we've got Mothump playing as the Blue Aztecs. The map is going to be Arabia, a very common map online that you need to know if you want to get started. Arabia is super popular because it happens to be a fairly well-balanced and open map. Generally speaking, there are two types of maps in Age of Empires 2, open and closed. A closed map would be one that is fairly easy to wall, or you start with walls like Black Forest and Arena, two also very popular maps. And then in comparison we've got Arabia, which is very open and difficult to wall due to the terrain. At the start of the game we'll see both players take their time to immediately create 4 villagers and fan out all of their existing villagers to go try and collect their sheep, as well as have their scout move around the town center in a sort of circular pattern to try and collect any sort of remaining sheep, huddle them underneath the town center, and only gather from 1 sheep at a time, at least at this level of play, is fairly common to do because you don't want to have any food lost to decay. Right off the bat I can see that Agent 10 is a little bit slower with his opening than Mothump is, and I think Mothump's scouting is a little bit better, but let's go take a look at that just to see. I love comparing the players' perspectives because scouting is so important when it comes to high-level Age of Empires 2, and it's one of the things that everyone can improve on. Because Age of Empires 2 is fundamentally, like most strategy games, a game of incomplete information. You do the best you can with the cards that you're given and what you know is in your opponent's hand. And the more scouting that you have, the more information that you have, and then therefore you can pick a more appropriate counter strategy. So I love this scouting here. You can see the pattern that Mothump has. He was using his sheep earlier as well for a little bit of extra vision. And we are playing, by the way, on the Wololo Kingdoms mod for Age of Empires 2 HD Edition, so it does have all the balance changes and new expansions, so that's why we see the Indians in here today. This is a fairly good lumber camp placement. We can see here that Mothump is already planning ahead with the potential wall off around his lumber camp. That way no militia early on can actually get to it. And he is going to go for the boar lure here to improve his early game economy. We'll see how good this boar lure is. He's already rallying the villagers over to the forage bushes. And how is this boar lure going to be? It's going to be very, very well done. So this mill actually ideally would be placed like 1 tile back. I think it would be put about here, but the ideal mill placement doesn't actually make that much of a difference. Good to see a little bit of forced drop-off action right there from Mothump, making sure that he deposits his food to continue keeping his villager production up. And one thing that we'll notice is that, you know, around 5+ minutes in, players are going to make a shift in their scouting. They're actually going to start sending their scout away from their town center, usually toward the enemy. I feel like Agent 10 isn't getting as much value out of his scout as Mothump is, because I don't actually know why the scout was that close to the town center at that point, because he wasn't using it to lure the boar, which you would see sometimes on like a water map, like islands where your scout can't possibly get to the enemy, unless it happens to glitch over the water or something. So interesting to see that it's a little bit idle, but now he is indeed fanning out, and Mothump is fanning out as well. Both these players are just going to immediately default to going to the opposite sides of the map, as you can see, and the point of this is that they're just trying to go to the most likely place that their opponent would be. Start with the opposite side, and then work your way around the edges of the map. There's no point in going directly to the edge, just due to the way that resources and maps actually spawn. And now we'll see that Agent 10 is probably going to be the first player to discover Mothump, or is he just a little bit too short on his vision? Well, here's the thing. When you're scouting, and at this level of play, you should know that the way that maps generate signifies that he's already found Mothump. This is the 7 gold tiles, as well as the 5 stone. That means that there's a player nearby, and Mothump will be the first player to discover the enemy, and this is a really pivotal point in the match, because he has not only discovered where his opponent is located, he doesn't know where the town center is, but this straggler tree does give him some information. He also knows where the primary lumber camp, the first one built, for our purple player is. That is very important, as well as the forage bushes. These are going to be 2 points of contention where if Motham decides that he wants to go aggressive, that those are 2 areas that he wants to harass. Now, in comparison, Agent 10 has finally found Motham's base, but let's see what information he has. So he sees that Motham is walling up a little bit, but he doesn't really know anything else. He knows where the main gold is, he knows where the stone mine is, but he hasn't seen any buildings, so he doesn't know what wood line to harass should he decide to go aggressively, and that will be important. Now, he is swinging by over here. He's found the secondary lumber camp. And why secondary? Because when he walked past it, you could just see the building foundation. He has found the forage bushes, and he's scouting around. Now, what do you do if you are Agent 10 in this situation? You know your opponent is walling up, so should you go aggressive? Well, that's the trick. It's not always easy to know. And one thing that does help Agent 10's decision here is that I've noticed he just scouted the gold mine for Motham coming up, and there are 2 villagers coming over there. He doesn't know that the 2 villagers are being rallied there for a grand total of, it looks to be about 4 or 5, so I think Motham is going to open up with archers. So, Agent 10, he scouts around. I assume that his decision to go aggressive here, because he is sending a comically high amount of villagers, actually. Normally I'm used to 4, he's sending 6 for good measure. For, the strategy you just can't avoid and everyone loves playing against. Tower Rush, woo! Look at all those villagers on stone, everybody. I love playing against this strategy, said nobody. Anyway, here we're going to explore some practical ways to actually deal with this. Why go for towers? Why send 6 villagers over here in the first place? That's because Agent 10's like, this gold mine is really exposed, it's out in the front, and when you see the opposing main gold mine facing you, that is one signal that you could potentially go aggressive. However, if I was Agent 10 in this position, I feel like I don't have enough scouting information to really get the most out of my towers. And what information I do have is not enough, in that I see my opponent's already started the wall off, which means that I'm going to get limited value from my tower rush, which he's going for right now. And immediately once he gets in the field age, you see that, his scout gets +2 attack, and he starts harassing the villagers to delay the barracks that Motham is currently building. Agent 10 getting Town Watch right now. Ooh, spicy. Interesting. So what I really like about these intermediate games, besides basically everything, is that the players here are of a relatable skill level, like something obtainable, something that everyone watching should be able to get to with enough practice and through watching enough of my tutorials and other videos. And at the same time, we see quite a bit of good play, but also like a varied metagame. Like, things aren't extremely disgustingly well optimized, so it makes things interesting to watch. I like this. One thing that I do like is that Motham is just walling really heavily, and I think that, okay, we need to check real fast on what Motham actually saw. He did not actually see the stone mine, so he's just walling up like this to go for archers anyway, I think based off the way his map was laid out, was why he decided to do this, and I like that. This defensive tower here, I think, is it's a potential misplay, actually, on Motham's part, but we can understand why he would do this, right, with the limited information he has. And the thing with Age of Empires 2 is, oh man, I could spend like 20 minutes on just 1 minute of a replay, because there's so much depth to this game, and that's why I've been making videos for over 7 years, and why it means, even more to me that people take the time to support my passion projects for other games too. So thank you so much in advance for those of you who do that. Motham was clearly planning to go for an archer rush here, but we saw with his early gold, he didn't know that his opponent was going for a tower rush. I think he just looked at the way the map was laid out and decided to wall up. And I like that he built this secondary wall off right here. The thing with these watchtowers, what they're doing is they're not actually pressuring Motham's resources directly. This is very important to keep in mind. They're not. And that's why I think if I was in Agent 10's shoes, it's easier to say in retrospect, but again, we're just going off the information that he had, rather than going at it from, the I can see everything, omnipotent caster perspective. From his just vision alone, we saw Motham walling up. Yeah, we know that he has a forward golden stone mine, but I just feel like he didn't have enough information to go for this type of strategy. Although, with the nerfed buildings and everything like that, I guess this is a lot lower risk than it was before. Back in the Conquerors, you had to really use your res think, use your noggin before you decided to tower rush. There was kind of an art to it, and a lot more counterplay to it. But now it's really hard to deal with. Everyone's snagging all their eco upgrades now, very important, as well as the fletching upgrade to get that extra range. These houses are going to get demolished here by Agent 10. So why was building this tower? Let's stop for just 1 second. Why was building this tower here like a slight mistake? And why did he build it in the first place? So Motham built it there to try and deny Agent 10 from building future watchtowers. Why is Agent 10 building all these watchtowers here? So that he can deny Motham from actually building another layer of walls and reinforcing these. He needs to get into this economy and then daisy chain his towers because they have minimum range closer and closer to actually getting into Motham's economy. He does crucially deny the first lumber camp now by putting this tower on the hill. And this is when I think Agent 10's like fast town watch, which is kind of crazy. It's a town watchtower rush, is super useful. I like this. And you don't see this every day. Manages to deny this lumber camp. It gives him so much vision. So Motham's tower placement here would have been fine if there wasn't already a tower here from Agent 10, and it was good of him to recognize it and delete it. The problem is now, though, is that Motham did end up losing quite a bit of stone from that. He does not have enough stone for another watchtower. Now, moving on, great to see Motham actually doing some scouting, because his Eagle Scout is not going to be doing anything at his own base. He might as well figure out as much as he can about Agent 10's own base layout, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, when your opponent goes for a tower rush, thankfully, there's still a little bit of risk involved in it. Agent 10 is naked. He has no defenses at home, and I think I just got demonetized. So anyway, when you go for a tower rush, you don't have any defenses at home usually. So he needs to wall up, but it's going to be slower because it's going to waste a ton of his wood on all these towers, and he doesn't have any military buildings at this point. He had to go for really fast feudal age. There are always sacrifices that must be made. And now he's putting down his blacksmith so he can get that crucial fletching upgrade for his towers to get even more range and attack. He's patrolling around here with the scout. Motham, though, again, this is cool to watch, is getting his secondary archer range up now. He's a little bit slowed down, obviously, because these players don't have an infinite attention span. They have to be very careful with their time. Time is a resource in this game, too. And so we can expect this tower rush to be quite distracting. But Motham is going to get the padded archer armor here, and this is very important against the repetitive arrow fire of a garrisoned watchtower, because it fires more arrows the more villagers or archers are inside of it. So I like this padded archer armor choice. I think this is interesting because it'll slow down Motham's castle age timing a little bit, but I do think it is worth it, especially because we can expect at some point Agent 10 to transition into military units and play some Age of Empires too. But, we'll see. This is the current metagame, so, But I picked this replay not just to give everyone who watches this PTSD, but instead to show everyone how realistic players do this type of strategy and how you can help repel it, and then what may actually happen after that, because the transition phase can be super awkward for most players and often is. So Agent 10 maybe overextending just a little bit. He ends up losing 2 of his villagers here to some good focus fire down by Motham, but at the same time, some archers did die. 2 archers for 2 villagers. The thing is, though, this is an exchange that Motham is willing to take, so I think that is a good decision. Why is that a good trade? Well, it's simply put, it is very difficult for Agent 10 due to the rush distance to actually send more villagers over here to actually build future towers. So Motham is fine with trading archers for, for a villager, as many as it takes, and he manages to get 2 more, which is fantastic. I like this watchtower, but again, he just has to be really careful with how far forward this tower is. This one's going to be really pivotal. Motham, as well, is even more motivated to take this trade because he cannot let this tower go up, because then he's going to lose his main gold mine. He does have a secondary gold mine over there, and again, that is why, if I was Agent 10, and if only we could all go back in time and redo everything, right? But no, you can't, so this is just for educational purposes only, for your own reference. I feel like he did not have enough information, and what information he had made this type of strategy a little extra risky. Motham does have a secondary gold mine that he could access, and does Agent 10 know it exists? Yeah, he does. He actually did scout that. So even though he can threaten this one, look at how Motham is dealing with this. He is trading his archers for villagers, and all he really needs to do is stall here. That's all he needs to do. And then he'll be fine. If he can pick off all these villagers, there were 6 that were sent forward. 4 have died. With only 2 remaining, it's going to take forever for this tower to get built. So Motham is fine with this trade, and he's even going to pull villagers off the line to actually weaken the foundation of this tower. Now, this, I would say, is a slight overreaction, but again, we look at it from the perspective of these players, and I understand why one would want to do that. Absolutely. A tower rush tends to put people in this sort of state of panic, right? where you know you can't let that tower go up, or you just lose the game. The thing is that it's easy for me in retrospect to look at the situation and be like, you just picked off 4 of those builders. This tower is not coming up anytime soon. Or if it does, we're going to kill those villagers when they get there. So he just has to make sure that he manages to deny the towers from actually getting built, which is what he's doing now. Good of him to pull those villagers off, resist the temptation, resist the urge. Instead, wait patiently for those villagers to come by. If this tower goes up, this one's not the end of the world. As long as he makes sure that he can camp this one, continue building up his economy, and look what your boy Motham just did. Look what he did. He just built a market. This will allow him to advance the castle age in a reasonable time frame, and let us take a look at Agent 10. Agent 10 has 700 food, which is quite a bit, but I think he's been idling his town center. Yes, he has. He's been idling it for a long time, and he's got like not that long, but he has no gold. He hasn't been mining any gold at all. So this is about as all in as it gets. This is what peak performance looks like. This is the ideal build order. It's just nothing but towers, no gold miners. He spent all of his gold on fletching and loom because what else do you need? And he thinks he's going to get away with it. If your opponent, is a little bit slower or doesn't have a pulse, it works way too well. And this tower did come up. Yeah, it would inevitably come up. But the thing is, would you ever pull your villagers off the line for this? Maybe now that the tower is up. Maybe you would. But he's going to need more villagers than this. And, it makes me wonder if this is a mistake. Because I actually say maybe you don't. I guess he had to test the waters. And it so turns out the waters are acidic, deadly, and infested with sharks. But, villagers do a lot of extra damage to towers and buildings. But it's just, he would need to pull off like a mob. And he's desperately trying to pick off the villagers. But remember, in a real Age of Empires 2 game online, there's lag. And a lot of it. So it's not that easy for him to go in, pick off those villagers, and not sustain losses. Agent 10's like, oh shit, there's 4 resources in this game. 5 if you count population, 6 if you count time, 7 if you count map control. Expanding brain. So he needs to get gold mining pronto to actually make sure that he gets enough gold to advance the castle age at some point. Because I think it's starting to, the existential dread it's slowly settling down here. And Agent 10's like, ah, crap. I do have to finish this game of Age of Empires 2, don't I? I can't just kill him outright. And this sort of, degenerate, all-in Tower Rush style build. Ooh! Villager gets picked off. Nicely done by Motham. Would work well-ish against a player that had a very different map, maybe. But Motham's map is just a bit too safe. He's just moved on to mining that gold. So even though this tower is up, it's not the end of the world. And that's why I think pulling all those villagers off the line wasn't necessarily worth it, because he had a secondary goal at the back. This isn't do or die. And if it was do or die, I think you need to, snag more villagers. Now, Agent 10 is he reacts very, very well to this. He's lost all of his forward villagers. He's got the forward blacksmith. And what he does is he immediately goes to Castle Age with a market. That's something that I feel like a lot of players don't do enough. And if you're struggling to get out of the lower to mid skill bracket, then the market is one thing that you can leverage to just topple your opponents. Motham is going to drop a siege workshop to try and remove these towers. He's either going to build a mangonel or a battering ram. Either works in this case. Normally we see a mangonel that gets repaired by a villager because it's safer with the range, but a battering ram here, there's no actual military units to protect this, so either works. It's good of him to build that siege workshop. Although, you could make a case. He's also going forward with his crossmen, getting his crossmen plus bodkin arrow timing attack as the attacks are super cheap. And combo really well with each other. You can mass up the archers in the feudal age, it's great. And Agent 10 looks like he'll be transitioning to archers of his own because he's getting padded archer armor. Yeah, now he has to start walling his own base. This is what happens when you come at your opponent with no clothes on. Not only do you get arrested, but also, here comes the crossbowman police. But also, you've no defenses at home. What are you going to do? Well, he has to build his first barracks. 28 minutes in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the archer range is coming down at 28 minutes in. Hoy! Honestly, I feel like building HP and walls were nerfed a bit too much, but that's just my personal opinions. Back in the game itself, I am assuming we're going to see some hot skirmisher action. There we go. See, the ram kind of works here because it's protected by... well, actually, there's no military units there at all for purple. So, anyway, I expect some hot skirmisher action. Am I going to see it? Yes, I am. That's nice to see, but these military buildings are coming up a bit too late. Mothump's slipping right underneath that town center, and he will be able to pick off these villagers. Yeah, the skirms will eventually overwhelm this, and this is one hell of a safe gold mine for purple. That's just busted. And look at this population. It is so low, and that's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, when you go this all in. Now, it's so funny to see Mothump actually, his battering rams getting owned by these towers because there's so many of them. Sure, they do 1 damage a pop, but it doesn't matter that much if they're taking so many shots. And, oh, these are skirmishers with only feudal age upgrades. Now, that's the struggle. You can't research elite skirmisher and continue skirm production, and he only had, what, like, yeah, only 1 woodline actually being harvested from. Devastating. You see how Mothump pulled back his battering ram, the one that was really low on HP, and then he sent the one that was higher on HP first? That's another trick, because ranged units will default to attacking the closest target, and this way, he could have both battering rams up for longer to slowly chip away at this. You could make a reasonable case that Mothum didn't need to make that siege workshop and clear out those towers, and instead could have built a town center because all those battering rams could have been a town center. You could make that case. You could. But I guess he doesn't have the stone for it. But he could buy the stone. Interesting. You know, it really depends, like, how important is this map control? And I guess it is pretty important, because it does leave the front half of his base open, and he does need the stone mine. And it does mean that if purple ever wants to attack, then he gets free reign into Mothump's base. Now, what I really like is that purple here, holy shit, guys, he's at 105 population, 31 minutes. Well, that's his max. His actual population is like 33. Well, look at him. 4 town centers. That's what I like to see. I can't tell you how many games I have casted where people just don't build like a second town center. This Agent 10 guy he's on the next level. So, and he's doing the right thing. He went all in, balls deep with those towers. And then after that, he's like, wait, no, I know how to play Age of Empires 2 Farming Simulator. I'm just going to put down 4 TCs because I've been mining all that stone, and I'm going to outboom my opponent because he knows for every battering ram that comes down, that means that Mothump doesn't have another town center, or if he does, and he does not currently, it's just going to be delayed. So this is an opportunity for Agent 10 to go from his hilariously small economy, the huge eco deficit, to a decisive eco advantage, especially because it's the Indians and his villagers cost less. So that's an excellent play on his part. And I love that Mothump is going aggressively now and pressuring him. So what do you do when your opponent tries to go into your base and just go guns blazing, or towers blazing in this case? Well, after you deny the villagers from building additional towers, you build some walls to try and prevent them from getting too close to you. What you should do then is go aggressively on your opponent and start raiding their completely defenseless base. And that's what he's been doing. But look at this, man. Boom! That's what Rez likes to see. And look at Mothump on the demolition crew. Ooh, removing all these towers. But that scout cavalry from the start of the game coming back with a vengeance. Doing that chip damage. Just some nice chip. Ooh, it won't quite be enough, but it'll probably mean that this battering ram might die. Mothump's done a great job clearing this out. And now he does have access to his stone mine. And we're going to need to see a lot of town centers from him, or he's oddly enough going to fall behind in economy. Agent 10 has a military population of 0, 35 minutes in the game. See, I like this. And I really want to know what you think, so please do give me your feedback. Age of Empires 2, I'd like to see it where it's less predictable like this, but the players are also making good plays. I have some really crazy, entertaining free-for-alls and whatnot that I recommend that you watch, but the level of play there is obviously a little bit lower. Whereas here we're seeing good players do some pretty crazy things. I like that. And this is also a skill level that everyone here can reach. That's cool. He's at a military population of 2. Man! Get that elite skirmisher upgrade at some point, but he's just booming! He's just booming! Look at this man! And Mothum grabbing that ballistics upgrade to allow him to do some raiding a little bit better. I like what I see, I like what I see. But really his economy is just in shambles, and he's gonna need... Alright, cool. He's got a secondary town center. I mean, I say it's in shambles, but he does have a 10 villager lead or 11 villager lead. It's just, it's going to start going in the other direction, and we're going to see the game go on from here. See how this engagement goes. But here's the thing. It looks like the focus fire was just not quite there from Agent 10 initially. I mean, now it is. That's good. He needs to be focus firing down the crossmen. But look at the struggle. This is what happens when your opponent has bodkin arrow and crossbowmen, is that you don't have enough pierce armor. You need that elite skirm upgrade. And Agent 10, I mean, he should be building another archery range or like a siege workshop or something. Dude's got money. Use that money. Ooh, Motham just goes Imp. He's been saving money the whole game for Imp. I like this idea a lot. So, he's just going straight to Imp. I mean, okay, this is what you do when your opponent doesn't make military units. You can just go to Imp and make a single trebuchet. The little trebuchet that could. I love it. I absolutely love it. And Motham is going to send a ton of villagers forward. He's going to return the favor. He's going to pay it forward. Ooh, I like this. It's the hottest mixtape of the end of 2018. You drop that castle. Drop that castle good. Oh my goodness. Now Agent 10 getting that hand card because he's going to get some sick value out of that. Look at him catching up to Motham. Too little, too late, my friend. Yeah, he played this well. That was a really, really ballsy strategy, and this man can farming simulator, but I don't think he made enough military buildings to clear out those crossbows, and those crossbows do so much damage to his economy. And Motham, he knows that his opponent has no military whatsoever, so he can just go to Imp. And, you know, I actually think Motham saving his food by going for, like, nothing but crossbows, and then going for Imp and not over-booming, was actually a pretty good play. It was a good play. And it's just an alternate way to win. Could he have, like, boomed up and gone through, like, the castle age and killed this guy there? Probably, yeah. But here, he can just make a single trebuchet, and boom. This guy's dead. Yeah, he's gonna put down his stable. I assume to make some camels or something like that, but that's not gonna work out at all. You know what Sun Tzu said, or usually me say, is that he who gets the first trebuchet wins the war. And this first trebuchet is coming out way sooner than anything Agent 10 can do. Now, Agent 10 is going to get bloodlines, so clearly he wants camels, but these camels are going to get absolutely decimated by these Arbalest. And that's another reason why I love that Motham is just going for Arbs. I mean, not only is this like a fast, cheap thing to go for, because the upgrades for it are so cheap, but also, it covers the whole camel thing really, really well, because camels have no pierce armor at all. So, that's fantastic. Yeah, Husbandry and Bloodlines. Husbandry is going to be important to close the gap, but here comes the Battering Rams. So Motham had two options there, right? Like, he could close out in the Castle Age or close out in the Imperial Age. I think Agent 10 left himself defenseless for just a bit too long. If he was able to get up a defensive castle, you could argue that maybe he would live. Except, Motham had that strategy covered by actually going to the Imperial Age super fast. And I think that's one of the reasons why he decided to do that, is because this type of defensive, farming simulator style of gameplay, you can protect yourself with a castle, but if your opponent just goes to Imp on a relatively small economy, because again, Agent 10 now finally has the eco lead, then you're screwed because the first trebuchet comes out and you lose. So, some really interesting decision making on the part of both players, and hopefully this match really showcases how important having like proper scouting information is, and also the importance of making military units. But honestly, this type of strategy can work out pretty well, and it did a lot of damage to Motham, and kudos to Motham for keeping a level head throughout, and I liked Agent 10's transition. Should Agent 10 have transitioned into military units, you may be wondering, as a way to try and go toe-to-toe with Motham? I don't really think so. I feel like he was so far behind militarily and economically that he would not be able to catch up to Motham. Should he have made more military units and buildings? Probably. Maybe he went a little too far in the economy aspect of it. Easier to say in hindsight. But I think that him going for all the multiple town centers was the correct play in that situation. He needed to get an eco lead over Motham, because that was really the one thing he had going for him, was he had a stronger economy, and this is playing to the Indian strengths, is the discount of villagers. So that's something that I like to see from him, but he didn't have a defensive castle, and Motham was totally prepared for it anyway, because he just went to Imp. Would more military units have saved him? I mean, yeah, maybe. He needed to clear out these crossmen earlier. That really slowed down his boom. I think that was a pivotal point in the game. Alternatively, Agent 10 could have maybe built like one other town center, and then also gone to Imp 2. He would have trebuchets to trade with Motham, but I mean, it's really hard to deal with these Arbalest. He'd have to get, because the Mangonels will just get sniped at this point with the 6+3 attack damage and then the 8 range. So he'd need like the Onager technology, or he'd need like bombard cannons, and then it just becomes a can of worms. So I really think that this also showcases the downsides of going for such an aggressive tower rush like that, in that if Motham did play that as well as he did, then Agent 10 didn't have that many great options. It would put him at such an insurmountable disadvantage. He had maybe a couple outs, but they were going to be really tricky. I think he called GG at the appropriate time. And again, Hopefully you all enjoyed my commentary and you enjoyed this match. And as always, thank you so much for the support, and especially for the content I do for other games. Let's go to the achievements real quick. This is a good game. I liked it. It was a weird one, but it was a good one. A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. Honestly, when I picked this replay, I hadn't watched it yet. And I really didn't know what to expect, especially from the stats. Can you believe it? Largest army of 5, units killed 48. Alright then. Sometimes that's Age of Empires too. You know, to be honest with everybody, I do kind of miss the Conquerors a little bit, because going for this type of build was, you know, riskier, I think, and required more thought back in the day. Yeah, there was less variety in civilizations, but I think that overall I liked the balance of the various strategies like a smidge more. Whereas here, it just, lots of towers. But compared to an expert game, and obviously I'll be doing, you know, plenty of different types of Age of Empires 2 videos depending on the demand for it, is that here we get to see a lot of towers, but it's done in an interesting way with a little bit of flair to it. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.